Here is the reformatted text without the numbers. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, transmitted across 47 light-years of space in a language Earth's computers had never seen before. Within 6 hours, the world's best linguists and artificial intelligence systems had cracked it. Within 12 hours, every government on Earth wished they hadn't. Primitive species of the third planet, the message began. You have been discovered by the Kalrith Empire. Your world possesses resources we require. You have two choices: submit to our rule and become a subordinate species within our empire, or resist and be destroyed. You have one solar rotation of your planet to decide. The United Nations Emergency Council met in Geneva within hours. Representatives from every nation on Earth crowded into the chamber, their faces showing various shades of fear, anger, and disbelief. For 3 hours, they shouted at each other. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others demanded they fight. A few suggested hiding or running. Then someone from the back of the room spoke up. Nobody remembered later who it was, but they remembered what was said. They want a war. Let's give them one they'll never forget. The response Earth sent back was simple. We accept your declaration of war. However, we request 6 months to prepare our forces. Is this acceptable to the Kalrath Empire? On the Imperial flagship Pride of Kalrath, Commander Vriss read the translation and laughed. It was a deep rumbling sound that echoed through the command center. His subordinates laughed with him. 6 months. These primitives wanted 6 months to prepare. Grant their request, Vriss said, still chuckling. Let them have their time. It will make no difference. Send observers to watch their preparations. I want to see what these humans think will stop us. Vriss was a veteran of 32 campaigns. He had fought the Zelthians, who could regenerate from almost any wound. He had crushed the Moric Collective, whose hive mind made them perfectly coordinated. He had broken the Sentinel defense line, which had held for 200 years. In all his life, in all the Empire's 4,000-year history, no species had ever won against them. These humans would be no different. Their technology was primitive. They still used chemical propulsion for most of their spacecraft. They had barely colonized their own moon. They were divided into hundreds of competing nations that could barely cooperate on anything. But Vriss was thorough. He sent his 3 best intelligence officers down to Earth to observe. What they reported back confused him. Commander, his chief intelligence officer said, her face troubled on the video screen. They are not mobilizing their militaries as we expected. What do you mean? Vriss asked. They are emptying their prisons, sir. All of them. Every prison facility on the planet is being processed. They are releasing the inmates. Vriss frowned. Perhaps they need the space. Are they converting the prisons into military facilities? No, sir. They are releasing the prisoners and giving them a choice. They can have full pardons for their crimes, or they can join something called the Frontier Force. Almost all of them are choosing the Frontier Force. What crimes did these prisoners commit? The intelligence officer checked her data pad. Murder, sir. Assault, war crimes from their various planetary conflicts, torture, terrorism, mass murder, the worst criminals their species has produced. They are releasing all of them. Vriss leaned back in his command chair. This made no sense. Perhaps they are desperate. They plan to throw bodies at us. There is more, sir. They are also recruiting from their military discharge records, but not the honored veterans. They are specifically finding soldiers who were removed from service for being too violent. Excessive force, unauthorized killings, insubordination. And they are offering massive payments to mercenaries and private military contractors. Over the next weeks, the reports grew stranger. Earth had divided its new force into groups. The first group they called Tier 1. These were professional soldiers who had been discharged for brutality, mercenaries with verified kill counts in the hundreds, and special forces operatives who had been deemed too unstable for normal service. The second group, Tier 2, was worse. These were the serial killers who had murdered dozens. The war criminals who had committed atrocities that made even Earth's governments uncomfortable. The truly insane who had been locked away in high-security mental facilities. These were kept separate and given different training. Then there was Tier 3, but nobody talked about Tier 3 much. Even Earth's government seemed frightened of what they had put in that category. What kind of training are they receiving? Vriss asked during one briefing. His intelligence officer pulled up video footage. This is from one of their training facilities, sir. We accessed it through their public network. They seem to want us to see this. The video showed a large room that looked like a destroyed city. Human trainees moved through it in small groups. But they moved wrong. There was no formation, no organization. They scattered randomly, some running along walls, others diving through windows. They fought each other in practice combat, and the combat was vicious. No rules, no stopping when someone was down. One trainee was laughing while another choked him. The one being choked managed to bite the other's arm hard enough to draw blood. They both fell away laughing. What are they doing? Vriss whispered. They call it chaos training, sir. They are specifically teaching them to be unpredictable, to ignore pain, to enjoy combat. The instructors are former soldiers who were discharged for psychological problems. Another video showed a classroom. A scarred human stood at the front pointing at a holographic display of a Kalrith soldier. This is what you'll be fighting, the instructor said. They are bigger than us, stronger than us. Their armor is better than anything we have. Their weapons are more advanced. Their ships are faster. The trainees in the room were silent, watching. So, we do not fight fair, the instructor continued. Fair fights are for sports. This is war. You see that armor? It has 17 connection points. You cannot break it, but you can get through it. You see those weapons? They will kill you in one shot. So, do not get shot. Move. Keep moving. Make them miss. Make them afraid. One trainee raised his hand. What if we get captured? The instructor smiled. It was not a nice smile. Then you make them regret it. You make them so uncomfortable, so disturbed that they let you go or kill you. Either way, you win. A live prisoner can escape. A dead prisoner becomes a warning. Vriss watched dozens of these videos. He saw humans training in zero gravity by fighting each other with knives. He saw them practicing what they called boarding actions, where they would cut into a ship's hull and attack the crew inside. He saw them learning to use improvised weapons, to build bombs from common materials to spread fear. They are training terrorists, Vriss said. Not soldiers, terrorists. Yes, sir, his intelligence officer agreed. But very effective terrorists. Earth's fleet began to assemble. The ships were wrong, too. Military vessels were supposed to be clean, organized, painted in proper colors. These ships looked like they had been built in scrapyards. Some had been. Earth had taken every civilian ship that could fly, stripped out the civilian parts, and welded on weapons. The weapons were primitive but numerous: ballistic missiles that used simple explosives, rail guns that fired chunks of metal at high speed. Even more primitive kinetic weapons that just threw heavy objects very fast. Nothing sophisticated. Nothing that required advanced technology. But there were so many ships, thousands of them. And on their hulls painted in bright colors were marks, tallies, kill counts. Sir, his intelligence officer said, those marks are from before the war has even started. They have painted kill counts on their ships as a psychological tactic. Or a promise, Vriss muttered. The 6 months came to an end. Vriss prepared his fleet for departure to Earth. He had 300 ships, each one a masterpiece of Kalrith engineering. His crew were all veterans, trained from birth in the military arts. They knew 400 battle formations. They understood honor, discipline, and proper warfare. The night before departure, Vriss received one final report from Earth. His intelligence officers had intercepted a transmission from Earth's command to their fleet. He read it alone in his quarters. Asterisk, to all Frontier Force personnel, you know what you are. You know what you have done. Society locked you away because you were too dangerous, too violent, too broken. We needed you locked away because peace required it. But now we need you for what you are. We need your violence. We need your chaos. We need you to do what no civilized soldier would do. There are no rules in this fight. There are no laws. There are no limits. Win or lose, you will never be welcomed home as heroes. You will never be honored, but you will be free. Show the Empire what happens when humanity stops pretending to be civilized. Make them regret ever finding us. Asterisk. Vriss put down the data pad and looked out his window at the stars. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something he had not felt before, doubt. The next morning, his fleet departed for Earth. 300 ships of the Kalrith Empire, the greatest military force in the known galaxy, moving to crush a primitive species that had barely learned to leave its own planet. Behind them, Earth's fleet was moving, too. Thousands of improvised warships crewed by the most violent, unstable, and dangerous humans their species had ever produced. Men and women who had spent years, sometimes decades, locked away from society. Now they were free. They were armed, and they were coming. Vriss watched the long-range sensors as the two fleets approached each other. His ships moved in perfect formation, a beautiful display of military precision that had been perfected over millennia. The human ships moved like a swarm of insects. No formation, no pattern, just a chaotic mass of vessels that seemed to move randomly through space. Sir, his tactical officer said, we cannot predict their movement patterns. They have no formation. Then we will impose order on chaos, Vriss said, trying to sound confident. Prepare for engagement. Standard Battle Formation 7. Show these primitives how real warriors fight. His fleet moved into position, a perfect crescent designed to envelop and destroy an enemy. It had worked for 2,000 years against every opponent they had faced. The human fleet did not respond to the formation. They did not counter it or try to break it. They just kept coming, scattered and random, like they did not even see the trap being prepared for them. In range in 60 seconds, the tactical officer announced. Vriss gripped his command chair. This was it. This was where the war would be decided. His perfect formations and discipline against their chaos and desperation. Sir, the communications officer said suddenly, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through, Vriss ordered. The message was simple, just 7 words spoken by a human voice that was laughing. Asterisk, no rules, no mercy, no prisoners. Asterisk. Then the human fleet opened fire and Vriss realized that everything he knew about warfare was about to become completely useless. The Battle of Proxima Garrison lasted 7 hours. In those 7 hours, everything Commander Vriss understood about warfare died. The human fleet did not maneuver to counter his formation. They ignored it completely. Ships broke off from the main group in 1s and 2s, accelerating at speeds that should have killed their crews from the force. Some headed straight at his vessels, others curved away in random directions. There was no pattern, no logic. Target the lead ships, Vriss ordered. Fire when ready. His weapons officers opened fire. Kalrith plasma cannons capable of cutting through a moon lanced out at the approaching human vessels. 3 ships exploded instantly. Their primitive hulls no match for advanced weapons. But the humans did not slow down. They did not retreat. They did not even try to dodge in any coordinated way. Each ship moved independently randomly, making it impossible to predict where they would be. More ships exploded. 10, 20, 50, but hundreds more kept coming. They are on suicide runs, his tactical officer said. Multiple ships have set collision courses with our vessels. Point defense will handle them, Vriss said. Stay in formation. The point defense systems activated, filling space with thousands of projectiles designed to destroy incoming missiles and debris. They worked perfectly, shredding the incoming human ships. But some got through. A human vessel already burning and breaking apart slammed into the side of the destroyer Relentless Pride. The explosion tore through 3 decks. Alarms screamed across Vriss's command center. Relentless Pride is reporting hull breaches, the communications officer said. They are attempting to seal the damaged sections. 1 ship, Vriss said. They traded 1 ship for minor damage. This is acceptable. Then 6 more human ships, all of them already damaged and listing, changed course toward other vessels in his fleet. His point defense fired, destroying 4 of them. 2 got through. 1 hit the cruiser Eternal Vigilance, punching through the forward armor. The other hit the carrier Dawn of Victory, detonating near the fighter bay. The carrier's entire front section exploded outward. Dawn of Victory is lost, someone shouted. 3,000 crew. Vriss stared at the display. The humans were using their damaged ships as weapons. Ships that were already dying, that had nothing left to lose, were being aimed at his fleet like missiles. Pull back, he ordered. Reform at 10,000 kilometers, get us away from these suicide attacks. His fleet began to pull back, maintaining perfect formation even in retreat. The human ships pursued, but many were too damaged to keep up. For a moment, Vriss thought he had gained some breathing room. Then his sensors officer spoke up, his voice confused. Sir, the damaged human ships that fell behind. They are moving again. Moving? They were dead in space. Yes, sir. But they are under power again. And they are heading toward us at high speed. Vriss pulled up the sensor data. Ships that had been floating, seemingly destroyed, were suddenly active again. They had been playing dead, waiting for his fleet to retreat, then reactivating. How many? He asked. 47 vessels, sir. All of them are broadcasting the same message. What message? The communications officer played it. It was a human voice screaming words over heavy music. Asterisk, surprise. We're not dead yet. Asterisk. The 47 ships accelerated hard. They were too close to the fleet now. Point defense was less effective at this range. The ship spread out, each one targeting a different vessel. Vriss watched in growing horror as the suicide ships closed in. His fleet fired everything they had. Plasma cannons, missiles, kinetic weapons. They destroyed 31 of the ships. 16 got through. The impacts were devastating. Not because the ships themselves were so dangerous, but because the humans had filled them with explosives. They had turned damaged vessels into bombs, then flown them directly into his fleet while pretending to be dead. Casualty report, Vriss demanded. The numbers came in slowly. 6 destroyers heavily damaged. 2 cruisers destroyed. 1 carrier, the Eternal Dawn, had been hit in the reactor section. It was a total loss and it was too close to the fleet. When it exploded, the blast caught 2 other ships. In one attack using ships he thought were already dead, the humans had destroyed or disabled a tenth of his fleet. Ground forces are requesting permission to land on Proxima Garrison, his communications officer said. They say the orbital bombardment has cleared the human defensive positions. Vriss had almost forgotten about the ground battle. While the fleet engagement happened, he had ordered his troop carriers to proceed to the human colony on Proxima Centauri. It was a small settlement, barely 50,000 humans. His ground forces numbered 10,000 elite Kalrith soldiers. "Permission granted," he said. "Tell them to be cautious." The troop carriers descended through the atmosphere. Vriss watched through the command feeds. The carriers were massive ships capable of deploying 1,000 soldiers each in minutes. They landed in perfect formation around the human colony which was burning from the orbital strikes. The first carrier's doors opened. Kalrith soldiers marched out in perfect ranks, their armor gleaming, their weapons ready. They had done this 1,000 times on 100 worlds. The humans opened fire from everywhere at once. From buildings that were supposed to be destroyed, from holes in the ground, from positions that should not exist. The weapons were primitive, bullets and explosives, but there were so many of them. Kalrith soldiers fell. Their armor held against most of the fire, but concentrated fire could still penetrate, and the humans seemed to be concentrating their fire very effectively. "Ground forces are taking heavy casualties," the tactical officer reported. "They are requesting support." "We already bombarded their positions," Vriss said. "Where are they firing from?" The answer came from the ground commander, his voice strained. "They are in the underground tunnels, sir. They built tunnels under the entire colony. The bombardment did not touch them." Vriss felt a cold sensation in his chest. The humans had known the bombardment was coming. They had prepared for it. They had gone underground and waited. The ground battle turned into chaos. Kalrith soldiers were trained for open warfare, for honorable combat. The humans fought from hiding, using ambushes and traps. They did not stand and fight. They would shoot from a window, then disappear. They would detonate explosives remotely. They would attack from behind. One squad of Kalrith soldiers entered a building, searching for human fighters. The building exploded. The humans had rigged the entire structure with explosives and waited for soldiers to enter before detonating it. Another squad was ambushed in a narrow street. The humans attacked from above, dropping from rooftops with knives and improvised weapons. The fight was close and brutal. Kalrith soldiers were bigger and stronger, but the humans fought like animals, clawing and biting when their weapons failed. Vriss watched the helmet camera feeds in disbelief. One human fighter, shot 3 times and clearly dying, continued to fight. He grabbed a Kalrith soldier's weapon and tried to turn it on its owner. When that failed, he used his last strength to pull the pin on a grenade, killing himself and 2 soldiers nearby. "They do not fear death," his tactical officer whispered. "Why do they not fear death?" The ground battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the human colony was completely destroyed. Every building was rubble. Every tunnel had been collapsed. The Kalrith had won, but of the 10,000 soldiers who had landed, only 6,000 made it back to the carriers. 4,000 dead or wounded, fighting an enemy that numbered less than 5,000. The survivors were shaken. Vriss could see it in their faces on the video feeds. They had won, but they looked like they had lost. One of the carriers reported finding a human survivor. They brought him aboard for interrogation. Vriss ordered him brought to the medical bay where he could observe the questioning remotely. The human was young, maybe 20 years old. He had been shot twice and was missing his left hand. He should have been unconscious from blood loss and shock. Instead, he was laughing. "Why are you laughing?" the interrogator asked through a translator. The human looked up at the camera, knowing Vriss was watching. His eyes were bright, almost fevered. "Because you think you won. You think this is victory. We destroyed your colony. Your people are dead." "Yeah," the human said, still laughing. "We're dead, but we took 4,000 of yours with us. And now you know. Now you understand what kind of fight this is going to be." The interrogator leaned forward. "Why do you fight like this? Where is your honor? Your discipline?" The human's laughter stopped. His face became serious. "Honor, discipline. We're not soldiers. We're criminals, psychopaths, and killers. Earth opened the cages and pointed us at you. We have been locked away our whole lives, and now we are free. Free to fight, free to kill, free to die. And we're having the time of our lives. But you will lose, the interrogator said. We are stronger. We have more ships, better technology. You cannot win. The human smiled again. It was a terrible smile. Maybe. The interrogator looked uncomfortable. What shall we do with him, Commander? Vriss thought for a moment. Then he made a decision he would later regret. Release him. Give him medical treatment, put him on a shuttle, and send him back to Earth. His officers looked at him in shock. Sir. I want Earth to know what happened here. I want them to see what we can do. Release him. The human was treated, his wound sealed, his missing hand given a basic prosthetic. They put him on a shuttle with enough fuel to reach the nearest human outpost. Before he left, the human asked to speak to Vriss directly. Against his better judgment, Vriss allowed it. The human's face appeared on his screen, still pale from blood loss, but still smiling. Thank you for the medical treatment. Very honorable of you. I want your people to know what happens when they fight us, Vriss said. Oh, they will know, the human said. But not the message you think you are sending. What do you mean? The human leaned closer to the camera. You killed 5,000 of us and lost 4,000 of your own. That is nearly 1-to-1. And we were not even your main target. We were just a colony, a small settlement. Now imagine what the main fleet will do. The Tier 1 fighters. And if things get bad, Tier 2. And if things get really bad, Tier 3. What is Tier 3? Vriss asked before he could stop himself. The human's smile faded. For the first time, he looked serious. Pray to your gods you never find out. The shuttle launched. Vriss sat in his command chair, staring at the casualty reports. 8 ships destroyed or crippled. 4,000 ground troops dead against an enemy that should have been easy to defeat. His communications officer interrupted his thoughts. Sir, we are receiving reports from the other engagement fleets. They have also made contact with human forces. Results? Vriss asked. Similar to ours, sir. Heavy casualties, unpredictable tactics, suicide attacks. The humans are fighting the same way everywhere. Vriss pulled up a tactical map of the war. The Empire had sent forces to 6 different human colonies. All 6 were reporting the same thing. Heavy losses, disturbing tactics, enemies that fought without fear or honor. In 3 days of fighting, the Empire had won every single battle. They had destroyed human colonies, captured human territory, and proven their military superiority. But Vriss looked at the casualty figures and felt cold. They had won every battle, but each victory cost them dearly, and Earth had not even committed its main fleet yet. This was just the beginning. 3 months after the first battles, Commander Vriss stood before the Emperor's War Council on the capital world of Kalrith Prime. The Grand Chamber was designed to intimidate with walls showing the Empire's 4,000 years of victories. Vriss felt each one of those victories judging him. Now explain, the Emperor said. His voice was calm, but Vriss knew that calm was dangerous. Explain how you have lost 12 systems in 3 months. Vriss straightened his uniform. Your Majesty, we have not lost in the traditional sense. We have won every major engagement. Every battle ends with human casualties outnumbering ours. We have destroyed hundreds of their ships. And yet, the Emperor said softly, they hold 12 systems that were ours. Systems you were supposed to defend. The humans do not fight to hold territory, Vriss said. They fight to destroy. They attack a system, cause maximum damage, then retreat before we can bring our full force to bear. When we pursue, they scatter. When we defend, they attack elsewhere. They are like water flowing around our defenses. One of the council members, Admiral Throuse, slammed his fist on the table. Then we need overwhelming force. Send 30 fleets instead of 3. Crush them with numbers. We tried that at the helium cluster, Vriss said quietly. We sent 30 ships to defend against an expected human raid. The humans sent 3. Those 3 ships attacked our supply depot, destroyed 6 months of supplies, and escaped. We lost more from the supply shortage than from combat. Another council member spoke up. What about their main fleet? Where is it? We do not know, Vriss admitted. They have thousands of ships, but they never mass them together. They operate in small groups, independent cells. We destroy one group, and 3 more appear somewhere else. The Emperor leaned forward. I have read your reports, Commander. But reports are just words. Show us what you mean. Show us how these humans fight. Vriss had prepared for this. He had brought recordings from dozens of battles. He started with the most recent one, the defense of Station Kaler 7. The station had been a fortress. 20,000 soldiers, massive defensive weapons, supplies for years. It was considered impregnable. The humans attacked with 300 fighters and small ships. The recording showed the battle from the station commander's perspective. The human ships approached without formation. Station weapons fired, destroying dozens of them, but the rest kept coming. Then the first ship made contact with the station's hull. Instead of exploding, it attached itself. Magnetic clamps, welding gear, anything to stick to the hull. More ships followed, attaching themselves all over the station like parasites. They are attempting to board, the station commander said in the recording. Sealing all airlocks. But the humans did not use airlocks. They cut through the hull with plasma torches. Dozens of holes appeared all over the station simultaneously. Human fighters poured through, wearing minimal pressure suits, carrying simple weapons. The station's internal security tried to respond. They set up defensive positions, called in reinforcements, followed proper defensive protocols. It did not matter. The humans did not advance in organized groups. They spread out like a virus through the station, appearing everywhere at once. They used the ventilation systems, the maintenance tunnels, the spaces between walls. They attacked from unexpected directions, then disappeared. One security camera caught a human fighter crawling through a ventilation shaft. He emerged behind a Kalrith defensive position and attacked with a knife. A knife against armored soldiers with plasma rifles. He killed 2 before being shot down. Another camera showed 3 humans against 15 Kalrith soldiers in a corridor. The humans should have been killed immediately. Instead, they used improvised flash grenades to blind the soldiers, then charged forward in close combat where the Kalrith's superior weapons were less effective. The battle for the station lasted 18 hours. When it ended, Station Kaler 7 was a floating wreck. Its reactor destroyed, its garrison dead or fled. The humans had lost 200 of their 300 fighters, but they had taken a fortress with 300 people. The council watched in silence. Vriss continued to the next recording. This one showed a space battle near the Frontier Nebula. A Kalrith battle group had detected a human fleet, 50 ships. The Kalrith had 200 ships. It should have been a simple victory. The human ships attacked in a spread formation. The Kalrith fleet moved to envelop them. A classic tactic that had worked for centuries. But as they moved into position, the human ships scattered. Not in a retreat, just scattered in random directions. The Kalrith fleet broke formation to pursue. That was the mistake. The human ships were formed in small groups. Each group picked a single Kalrith ship and attacked it from multiple directions simultaneously. Overwhelm one target with focused fire, then move to the next. The Kalrith tried to reform their battle line, but the humans kept breaking it apart. Every time ships tried to group together, human vessels would dart between them, forcing them apart. It was like trying to herd cats. The battle lasted 6 hours. The humans lost 30 ships. The Kalrith lost 90. The worst part was the audio. The Kalrith communications were disciplined, organized. The human communications were chaos. Laughing, shouting, celebrating every kill. One human pilot, his ship already damaged and venting atmosphere, rammed a Kalrith cruiser while screaming with joy. "They are insane," one council member whispered. "Yes," Vriss agreed. "That is exactly the problem." He showed more recordings. A ground battle where humans used their own dead as cover, propping up bodies to draw fire. A boarding action where humans deliberately vented atmosphere from their own section to freeze out Kalrith defenders. An ambush where humans waited in space in unpowered suits, floating like debris for 3 days until a Kalrith patrol came close enough to board. Each tactic was disturbing. Together, they painted a picture of an enemy that did not play by any rules, that did not value life, that saw death as just another weapon. "Enough," the Emperor said finally. "I have seen enough. What do you recommend, Commander?" Vriss hesitated. What he was about to say could end his career, possibly his life. But he had sworn to tell the Emperor the truth. "I recommend we negotiate peace." Silence filled the chamber. It stretched on for long seconds. "Peace?" Admiral Thrauz stood up, his face purple with rage. "We have never surrendered. Not in 4,000 years. We do not make peace with inferior species." "We are not inferior," said a new voice. Everyone turned. Vriss had brought a guest cleared by the Emperor himself, a human prisoner captured 2 weeks ago during the Battle of Serenity Station. His name was Marcus Drake, formerly a soldier in Earth's army, discharged for what his file called excessive enthusiasm in combat. Drake was not restrained. He walked to the center of the chamber calmly, looking around at the assembled council with interest. His Earth military uniform was clean, and he carried himself like he was at a casual meeting, not facing the leaders of a galactic empire. "You wanted to understand humans," Vriss said. "I brought you one. Marcus Drake has agreed to answer questions honestly." The Emperor studied Drake for a long moment. "You volunteered to be here?" "Yes," Drake said. "I was curious. Wanted to see the inside of the Imperial Palace. Pretty fancy. You are not afraid?" Drake shrugged. "Of what? Dying? I have been shot 4 times, stabbed twice, and blown up once. I have jumped out of perfectly good aircraft for fun. What is there to be afraid of?" Admiral Thrauz leaned forward. "We could execute you right now." "You could," Drake agreed cheerfully. "But then you would not learn what you need to know." "And what is that?" the Emperor asked. "Why you cannot win this war." The chamber erupted in shouts. Guards moved toward Drake, but the Emperor raised his hand. "Explain." Drake walked to the tactical display showing the current war situation. He pointed at the 12 systems marked in red. Formerly Kalrith territory now abandoned or destroyed. "You think we are beating you with tactics or technology? That is not true. Your tech is way better than ours. Your soldiers are better trained. Your formations are perfect. You should be winning easily. Then why are we not?" Vriss asked. Drake turned to face him. "Because you care about winning. We care about hurting you. There is a difference." He pointed at one of the red systems. "You took this system back from us last month. You won the battle. But we destroyed all the infrastructure before we left. The mines, the refineries, the stations. It will take you 5 years to rebuild. Was that a victory?" "We drove you out," Admiral Thrauz said. "Right. And it cost you 30 ships and 6,000 soldiers to drive out 300 of us. And we will probably come back in a month and do it again. How many times can you afford to win before you run out of ships and soldiers? The Emperor's expression did not change. You believe you can win through attrition, but we have far more resources than Earth. We can outlast you. Can you? Drake asked. See, that is the thing. We sent Tier 1 first. Professional soldiers, mercenaries, discharged special forces. Dangerous, but still basically sane. We have been fighting you for 3 months with just Tier 1. And, Vriss prompted. And Earth has already authorized the deployment of Tier 2. They launch next week. Vriss felt his blood run cold. He had read the intelligence reports on Tier 2. What is Tier 2 exactly? Drake's smile faded. The people Earth was scared to let out even for this war. Serial killers with body counts in the dozens. War criminals who committed atrocities that made the Geneva Convention cry. Cult leaders, terrorists, the truly broken ones. Tier 1 are people who got in trouble for being too violent. Tier 2 are people who were locked away because society literally could not contain them safely. And if Tier 2 is not enough, the Emperor asked. Then there is Tier 3, Drake said quietly. But honestly, I hope it does not come to that. I've seen the files on Tier 3. They scare me. What is Tier 3? Admiral Throuse demanded. I do not know exactly. Those files are classified above my level, but I know they exist. Earth has been studying psychological warfare, bioweapons, and neurological enhancement for decades. All the projects that were shut down for being too dangerous or too immoral. They put all of that into Tier 3. The chamber was silent. Finally, the Emperor spoke. You are trying to frighten us. No, Drake said. I am trying to save lives, your lives and ours. Because here is the truth, we cannot beat you militarily, but we do not have to. We just have to make winning too expensive. We just have to make you tired of fighting. And we are really, really good at that. He walked back to the center of the chamber. Every soldier you lose is one of your best. Trained from childhood. Valuable, irreplaceable. Every soldier we lose is someone Earth was happy to get rid of anyway. We are trading our trash for your treasures. How long can you afford that trade? Vriss had to admit the human had a point. The Empire's casualties were mounting. Not just in numbers, but in morale. Soldiers were requesting transfers away from the front lines. Some were deserting. The psychological evaluations showed increasing trauma, fear, and stress disorders. The humans were not just killing Calrith soldiers. They were breaking them mentally. Your Majesty, Vriss said carefully. Drake speaks truth even if it is unpleasant. We are winning battles but losing the war. Our forces are exhausted. Our supply lines are stretched and the humans show no sign of stopping. Because we cannot stop, Drake added. Most of us have nothing to go back to. We are criminals. Remember? When this war ends, we go back to prison or we die. Either way, we have no future except this war. So we will fight until we are all dead or you give up. And there are millions more where we came from. The Emperor sat back in his throne. For a long time, he said nothing. The council waited anxious. Finally, he spoke. I will consider your words. But know this, human. The Empire does not surrender. We have never surrendered. We will find a way to defeat you. Good luck with that, Drake said. But do it fast. Because Tier 2 launches in a week and they make us look like kindergarten teachers. The meeting ended. Guards escorted Drake away. The council members filed out talking in low voices. Vriss remained, waiting for the Emperor's private audience. When they were alone, the Emperor looked at him. You truly believe we should make peace? I believe we should end this war while we still can, Vriss said. Before Tier 2 deploys. Before the casualties become unbearable. The Emperor was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised Vriss. Do you know why the Empire has lasted 4,000 years, Commander? Because we are strong. Because we win. No, the Emperor said. Because we know when to stop. We have conquered hundreds of species, but we have also made peace with dozens more when conquest would cost too much. Pride is worthless if your empire is ashes. He stood, walking to a window overlooking the capital city. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we wish to discuss terms, but prepare our forces as well. If negotiations fail, we will deploy our own reserves, every ship, every soldier, everything we have. We will end this war one way or another. Vriss bowed. As you command, Your Majesty. As he left the palace, Vriss thought about Marcus Drake's words. About Tier 2. About the mysterious Tier 3. About humans who had nothing to lose and everything to gain from chaos. For 4,000 years, the Empire had crushed every enemy. But they had never fought an enemy like this. An enemy that welcomed death. An enemy that treated war like a sport. An enemy that got stronger the more desperate they became. The message was sent to Earth. The response came back within hours. Earth agreed to negotiations, but they had one condition. The talks would take place in neutral space, and Earth's delegation would be escorted by Tier 2. They want us to see what is coming, Vriss said to his staff. They want us to be afraid. His intelligence officer, who had been monitoring human communications, looked up from her console. Sir, I have been listening to Tier 2's communications. They are excited about the deployment. Excited to fight? No, sir. Excited to scare us. They have been planning things, psychological tactics, the things they plan to do. She looked pale. Sir, we should accept whatever terms Earth offers. Vriss looked at her files. What he read there made his blood freeze. Tier 2 had been planning their deployment for weeks. They had studied Kalrith psychology, Kalrith fears, Kalrith weaknesses. They were not planning to fight a war. They were planning to wage psychological warfare on a scale never before seen. And if Tier 2 failed, there was still Tier 3 waiting. Vriss closed the files. Get me a direct line to the Emperor. We need to accelerate these peace talks before it is too late. Tier 2 arrived at the neutral zone on schedule. Commander Vriss watched their approach on long-range sensors and immediately knew something was wrong. The ships were painted black. Not the clean military black of stealth operations, but a matte black that seemed to absorb light. On each hull, painted in white, were symbols, skulls, blood drops, tally marks that numbered in the thousands. One ship had a simple message, Hell's rejects. They want us to see them, his tactical officer said. Those ships would be more effective with stealth coding. This is for intimidation, Vriss agreed. Everything about Tier 2 was designed to unsettle. Where Tier 1 had been chaotic but still recognizably military, Tier 2 looked like something from a nightmare. The peace conference was scheduled to take place on Neutral Station Osiris, a diplomatic facility maintained by the Zelthian Confederation, one of the few species that had remained neutral in the war. Vriss would represent the Empire. Earth was sending someone named Sarah Chen, listed as a diplomatic attaché, but Tier 2 was the real message. As Vriss's shuttle approached the station, he saw the Tier 2 ships holding position around it. There were 50 of them, each crewed by fighters that Earth had kept locked away until now. They did not move in formations. They circled the station like sharks, unpredictable and threatening. The station commander, a Zelthian named Vorith, met Vriss at the airlock. The Zelthian looked stressed, his scales showing agitation patterns. Commander Vriss, welcome. I must inform you that the human delegation has already arrived and is waiting in Conference Room 1. How many? Vriss asked. The diplomatic team is 3 people, but they insisted on bringing 5 of their Tier 2 personnel as security. I could not refuse without violating neutrality protocols. 5 Tier 2 fighters here on the station. Vriss felt his stomach tighten. Have they caused any trouble? Vorith hesitated. Define trouble. They have not violated any laws, but they are disturbing. They requested access to our observation deck. When we showed them, they spent 2 hours just watching space, not speaking. One of them was humming. Just humming the same tune for 2 hours straight. Vriss had read the psychological profiles. Tier 2 consisted of individuals with severe psychological disorders, sociopaths, psychopaths, individuals with no capacity for normal empathy or fear. Earth had found the most disturbed people in their prisons and mental facilities and trained them for war. The conference room was large, designed for delegations of a dozen or more. The human team sat on one side. Sarah Chen was a middle-aged woman in a simple suit, looking like any bureaucrat. Next to her were 2 advisors, equally unremarkable. Behind them stood 5 Tier 2 fighters. They were not in uniform. Earth had apparently abandoned any pretense of military protocol with Tier 2. They wore whatever they wanted. One wore a tattered military jacket. Another wore what looked like civilian clothes. A third wore armor pieces mixed with regular clothing. But it was their eyes that disturbed Vriss most. They watched him with an intensity that was not normal. Not hostile, exactly. More like scientists observing an interesting specimen or predators evaluating prey. One of them, a tall woman with scars covering her visible skin, smiled at him. It was not a friendly smile. Vriss took his seat, flanked by his own security detail. Professional Kalrith soldiers trained and disciplined. They looked uncomfortable facing the 5 humans. Thank you for agreeing to meet, Sarah Chen began. Her voice was pleasant, professional. The government of Earth wishes to discuss terms for ending this conflict. The Empire is willing to listen, Vriss replied. But we will not surrender. That is not negotiable. We are not asking you to surrender, Chen said. We are asking you to leave. Withdraw your forces from human territory. Acknowledge our independence. In return, we will cease all offensive operations. You hold 12 of our systems, Vriss said. Systems that belong to the Empire for centuries. We hold them because you cannot defend them, Chen replied. And because defending them costs you more than they are worth. We are offering you a way to end this without further loss. One of the Tier 2 fighters laughed. It was a short, sharp sound. Chen glanced back at him and he fell silent, but the smile remained on his face. Vriss tried to ignore him. The Empire requires reparations. You have cost us thousands of lives and enormous resources. You invaded us, Chen said, her voice still calm. We defended ourselves. If anyone owes reparations, it is you. We offered you a place in the Empire. You chose war. You offered us slavery. We chose freedom. The negotiations continued for an hour. Vriss made demands. Chen countered them. They argued about territory, about resources, about responsibility. It was diplomatic theater. Both sides positioning for advantage. All the while, the 5 Tier 2 fighters stood silent, watching. Occasionally, one would whisper to another. Once one of them yawned, looking bored. Finally, Vriss called for a recess. He needed to consult with the War Council. Chen agreed, and both delegations retreated to their respective quarters. In his private room, Vriss opened a secure channel to Kalrith Prime. The Emperor's face appeared on the screen. Report, the Emperor commanded. The humans are offering peace, but on their terms. No reparations, no acknowledgement of imperial authority, just mutual withdrawal and recognition of boundaries. Unacceptable. The Empire does not retreat. Your Majesty, I recommend we accept their terms. The Emperor's expression hardened. Explain. Vriss chose his words carefully. I have seen Tier 2 now. Not in combat, just standing in a room, and they are wrong. Something is fundamentally wrong with them. They do not act like soldiers or even like Tier 1. They act like they are playing a game and we are the toys. You fear them. I fear what they represent. If Tier 1 caused us this much trouble, what will Tier 2 do? And there is still Tier 3. The Emperor was quiet for a moment. I will not decide this alone. I am convening an emergency session of the full Imperial Senate. They will vote on whether to accept Earth's terms or continue the war. How long will that take? 3 days. Can you stall the negotiations? I will try, Vriss said. The channel closed. Vriss sat alone thinking. 3 days. He needed to keep the humans talking for 3 days while the Senate decided the Empire's fate. There was a knock at his door. One of his security officers entered looking disturbed. Sir, we have a situation. One of the human Tier 2 personnel has requested a meeting with you. Private, no witnesses. Vriss felt a chill. Which one? The one they call Marcus Fenrir. His file. Sir, you should read his file. Vriss pulled up the information his intelligence team had gathered. Marcus Fenrir, age 34, former Special Forces operator, discharged after an incident in a war zone where he had apparently killed 14 enemy combatants in close combat with his bare hands. After discharge, he had been arrested for multiple violent crimes. During his imprisonment, he had killed 3 other inmates in separate incidents. All ruled self-defense, but suspicious. Psychological evaluation, severe antisocial personality disorder, possible sadism, high intelligence, complete lack of fear response. Why does he want to meet me? Vriss asked. He said he has information you need about Tier 3. That decided it. I will meet him. But maintain security presence outside the room. Sir, are you sure? Vriss stood. If the humans wanted to kill me, they could have done it already. This is something else. The meeting room was small, just a table and 2 chairs. Marcus Fenrir was already there, sitting casually with his feet up on the table. He was younger than Vriss expected, with dark hair and eyes that seemed almost black. His face was unmarked except for a single scar running from his left ear to his chin. Commander Vriss, Fenrir said, not bothering to stand. Thanks for meeting me. I know this is irregular. Vriss sat across from him. Your diplomat did not send you. Chen. Nah, she would have told me not to come. But I wanted to talk to you privately. Soldier to soldier, you know. You are not a soldier. You are a criminal. Fenrir laughed. True. Very true. But I used to be a soldier and you still are. So we can talk straight, right? No political bullshit. What do you want? Fenrir's smile faded. I want to give you some advice. Accept the peace terms. Take the deal. Go home. Why would you want that? Are you not here to fight? Oh, I am here to fight, Fenrir said. I am really hoping you say no, actually, because I have been locked up for 7 years and I really want to hurt someone. But I thought you should know what you are getting into if you keep this war going. Threats? Facts. Fenrir leaned forward. Tier 1 was professionals having fun. Tier 2 is monsters off the leash. But Tier 3? Tier 3 is something different entirely. Then tell me, what is Tier 3? Fenrir looked uncomfortable for the first time. I do not know all the details. They do not tell us everything, but I know some things. Tier 3 is not fighters. It is not soldiers at all. Then what is it? It is everything Earth tried and decided was too immoral to use. Biological weapons designed to target specific species. Psychological warfare using subliminal programming. Viruses that rewrite behavior. Nanomachines that can infiltrate and sabotage from within. Every evil experiment that Earth's governments shut down over the last century. They kept the data. They kept the research. And they put it all into Tier 3. Vriss felt cold. That would violate every galactic treaty. Yeah, well, you started a war with us. Treaties went out the window. And here is the thing, Commander. If they deploy Tier 3, it will not just hurt your military. It will hurt your entire species. Your civilians, your children, everything. You are trying to scare me. I am trying to save you, Fenrir said. And for a moment he sounded almost sincere. Look, I am a bad person. I know that I have done terrible things and I will probably do more. But even I think Tier 3 goes too far. It is not war anymore. It is extinction. Earth would not do that. They would not commit genocide. Earth would do anything to survive, Fenrir said. And right now, survival means winning this war. If you force them to deploy Tier 3, they will. And then everyone loses. Vriss studied the human. Why tell me this? Why warn me? Fenrir shrugged. Maybe I'm getting soft. Or maybe I just like you guys. You are honorable, disciplined, everything I am not. It would be a shame to wipe you out. Plus, if Tier 3 gets deployed, there will be no more fighting, and I really like fighting. So, this is selfish. Everything I do is selfish, Commander, but that does not mean I am wrong. Fenrir stood up. Think about it. You have a few days before the Senate votes, right? I checked your procedures. Use that time to really think about whether your pride is worth your species. He walked to the door, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. You see these 5 of us here as security? We are not the scariest ones in Tier 2. We are the ones stable enough to be in public. The really crazy ones are still on the ships. If this goes bad, you will meet them. Trust me, you do not want that. The door closed behind him. Vriss sat alone, his mind racing. Could the human be trusted? Was this psychological warfare trying to make him afraid? Or was Fenrir genuinely warning him? He opened his secure channel again, this time to his intelligence chief. I need everything we have on Earth's weapons research programs. Everything they have ever developed or tested, no matter how classified. The information came back within hours. As Vriss read through it, his blood ran cold. Earth had indeed developed biological weapons, diseases that could target specific genetic markers. They had tested them, refined them, then officially destroyed them, and signed treaties banning their use. But the data still existed. Earth had researched psychological warfare, sounds and frequencies that could induce fear or aggression, drugs that could alter behavior, mind control techniques using technology and chemistry. They had deemed these too dangerous and locked the research away. But the research still existed. Earth had experimented with nanotechnology, microscopic machines that could infiltrate bodies or systems, gathering information or causing sabotage from within. The programs had been shut down due to ethical concerns, but the technology still existed. Tier 3 was not a bluff. It was real, and if Earth deployed it, the war would become something far worse than a conflict between soldiers. Vriss made his decision. He opened a priority channel to the Emperor. Your Majesty, I need to speak before the Senate. I have new information that is vital to their decision. 3 days later, the Imperial Senate gathered. 5,000 senators representing every major world in the Empire. They had heard the arguments for and against peace. They had reviewed the casualty reports and the strategic analysis. Now, Vriss stood before them and told them about Tier 3. He showed them the research. He explained what Earth was capable of. He made it clear that continuing the war risked not just military defeat, but something far worse. When he finished, the chamber was silent. Then the Emperor spoke. I call for a vote. Should the Empire accept Earth's peace terms or continue the war? The vote was not close. 4,000 senators voted for peace. Only 800 voted to continue fighting. The Empire, for the first time in 4,000 years, chose to retreat. The next day, Commander Vriss met with Narration again. The Empire accepts your terms. We will withdraw from disputed territory. We acknowledge Earth's independence and sovereignty. Chen nodded. Thank you, Commander. You have made the right choice. Behind her, Marcus Fenrir smiled. Damn. I was really hoping you would say no. I know, Vriss said. That is why I said yes. The treaty was signed 6 weeks after the Senate vote. It was held on neutral station Osiris with representatives from 12 neutral species witnessing. The document was simple. The Kalrith Empire would withdraw from all disputed systems. Earth would cease offensive operations. Both sides would establish diplomatic relations and open trade negotiations. Neither side claimed victory. Both sides pretended the war had been a misunderstanding. Commander Vriss signed for the Empire. Narration signed for Earth. They shook hands for the cameras and both knew they were lying. The Empire had lost. Not militarily, but they had lost nonetheless. They had blinked first. After 4,000 years of never surrendering, never retreating. They had chosen peace over victory. And Earth had won. Not by destroying the Empire's fleets or conquering their worlds, but by making victory too expensive. They had won by being willing to go further, deeper into darkness than the Empire could stomach. As the ceremony ended and the delegations prepared to depart, Vriss found himself standing on the observation deck looking out at the stars. He was not alone. Marcus Fenrir stood nearby also watching the void. You are not celebrating, Vriss observed. Fenrir shrugged. Nothing to celebrate. The war is over. I go back to Earth, probably back to prison eventually. My vacation is done. You wanted to fight. I always want to fight, Fenrir said. It is what I am good at. It is what I am for. But peace is probably better for everyone else, so, whatever. Vriss was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question that had been bothering him. Was Tier 3 real or was it a bluff to scare us? Fenrir looked at him. What do you think? I think it was real. I saw the research. Earth has the capability. Then there is your answer. But would Earth have actually used it? Fenrir smiled, but it was a sad smile. You know what is funny? I do not know. I really do not. Earth's government is desperate to look civilized. They want to be the good guys. They locked people like me away because we reminded them of what humanity can be. But when their survival was threatened, they let us out. They armed us. They pointed us at you. He turned back to the stars. So, would they use Tier 3 if they had to? I think they would, because survival beats morality every time. But I am glad you did not make them choose. The Imperial fleet began its withdrawal. The next day, ship by ship, they abandoned the systems they had briefly held. Earth did not chase them. They simply moved in and took control of the empty space. Vriss returned to Kalrith Prime to find the capital in turmoil. The news of the peace treaty had been received poorly. Protests filled the streets. Some called for the Emperor's removal. Others demanded the war be restarted. But most were just confused. How had the mighty Empire been defeated by a species that could barely reach the stars? Vriss was called before the Emperor one final time. They met in private in the Emperor's personal chambers. The Senate is calling for inquiries, the Emperor said. He looked old, older than Vriss had ever seen him. They want to know how we lost. They want someone to blame. They will blame me, Vriss said. I am prepared for that. No, the Emperor said. They will blame me. I made the final decision. I chose peace over glory. I will take responsibility. Your Majesty, you saved the Empire. If we had continued, if they had deployed Tier 3. I know, the Emperor interrupted. I know what I saved us from, but the people do not understand. They see only that we retreated, that we lost. He walked to a window overlooking the capital. Do you know the real lesson of this war, Vriss? No, Your Majesty. Power is not enough. Technology is not enough. We were stronger, more advanced, more organized. We should have won easily, but we lost because we could not match their willingness to suffer. We could not match their capacity for darkness. The Emperor turned back to face him. We Kroth are civilized. We have rules, honor, traditions. These things make us great, but they also limit us. The humans have rules too, but they are willing to break them when necessary. They are willing to become monsters to survive. We are not. Is that a weakness? Vriss asked. I do not know, the Emperor admitted. Perhaps it is both a strength and a weakness. We remain true to ourselves. But we lost. A month later, Vriss retired from military service. He was given full honors, a generous pension, and a quiet estate far from the capital. The public never knew his role in the peace negotiations. History would remember him only as one of many commanders in a war the Empire preferred to forget. He spent his days writing a manual on warfare, but not the kind the Empire had taught for millennia. This was something different. A study of psychological warfare, asymmetric combat, and fighting enemies who did not follow traditional rules. The book was titled, Never Fight Species Who Have Nothing to Lose. It became required reading at the Imperial War Academy within 5 years. On Earth, the aftermath was different, but equally complicated. The Frontier Force personnel returned to Earth as heroes. Parades were held. Medals were awarded. Politicians gave speeches about their bravery and sacrifice. But within weeks, the reality set in. Earth had sent criminals and psychopaths to fight a war. And now they were back. Most could not simply return to civilian life. Many did not want to. The government's solution was pragmatic but cynical. They offered 3 choices to Frontier Force veterans. First, they could return to prison to serve out their original sentences minus time served in combat. Second, they could accept exile to newly established frontier colonies far from Earth's major population centers. Third, they could join a new organization called the Frontier Security Force, essentially becoming permanent mercenaries for hire. Most chose exile or the security force. Very few chose to return to prison. Marcus Fenrir chose exile. He and several hundred other Tier 2 personnel took ships to a frontier world called New Haven. It was barely habitable on the edge of human space, perfect for people that Earth wanted to forget about. Sarah Chen, who had negotiated the peace treaty, was promoted to ambassador. Her first assignment was to establish formal diplomatic relations with the Kalrith Empire. It was awkward. Everyone knew what had really happened. Everyone knew the peace was built on fear, not respect, but trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges were arranged. Slowly, carefully, humans and Kalrith learned to coexist. The truth about Tier 3 leaked. Eventually, news organizations got hold of classified documents. Scientists came forward to confirm that yes, Earth had indeed developed weapons that could target specific species. Yes, they had been prepared to use them if necessary. The scandal dominated news cycles for months. Investigations were launched. Government officials were questioned. Some resigned, others faced prosecution, but most people understood. When faced with extinction, humanity had been willing to do anything to survive. Right or wrong, it had worked. 10 years after the war ended, Commander Vriss received an unexpected visitor at his estate. The security system announced a shuttle approaching, registered to a human diplomatic vessel. Curious, Vriss went to greet his guest. He was surprised to see Sarah Chen walking up his garden path. "Ambassador Chen," he said, bowing slightly. "This is unexpected." "Former ambassador," she corrected with a smile. "I retired last year. I hope you do not mind the unannounced visit." "Not at all. Please come in." They sat in his study drinking tea that Vriss had imported from a Zelthian merchant. For a while, they made small talk. The weather, the state of galactic politics, mutual acquaintances. Finally, Chen got to the point. "I came to ask you a question. Something that has bothered me for 10 years. Ask. Why did you really advocate for peace? Was it fear of Tier 3, fear of casualties, or something else?" Vriss considered his answer carefully. "All of those reasons, but mostly, I think, because I realized we were fighting the wrong war." "What do you mean?" "We were fighting to win. You were fighting to not lose. Those are very different motivations. We could win every battle and still lose the war because you would never stop. You could not afford to stop." Chen nodded slowly. "You understood us better than we understood ourselves." "Perhaps. Or perhaps I just recognized something I saw in my own species' history. The Kalrith Empire was not always an empire. 4,000 years ago, we were a single planet divided into hundreds of nations. We fought wars constantly. Brutal wars. Wars where entire populations were destroyed. What changed? We grew up," Vriss said. "We learned that there are better ways to resolve conflicts. We developed honor codes, diplomatic protocols, rules of war. We became civilized. And those rules served us well for millennia until you met us." "Until we met you," Vriss agreed. "You reminded us of what we used to be. Young, violent, willing to do anything to survive. And we realized that all our rules, all our civilization meant nothing if we could not protect ourselves from species that did not share those rules." Chen looked out the window at Vriss's garden. "Do you think we are capable of becoming civilized like you?" "I think you are already civilized," Vriss said. "You have laws, culture, art, science. The fact that you are willing to break those rules to survive does not make you uncivilized. It makes you pragmatic. Some would say it makes us monsters." "Some of your people are monsters," Vriss said bluntly. "I met them. But they are your monsters. You created them. You controlled them. You used them for a purpose. That takes a kind of strength we Kalrith lack." They talked for hours about the war, about peace, about the future. When Chen finally left, Vriss felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. Perhaps the two species could learn from each other. The Empire could learn flexibility, pragmatism, the willingness to adapt. Humanity could learn discipline, patience, the value of rules. Or perhaps they would go to war again someday. Perhaps the peace was temporary, just a pause before the next conflict. But for now, there was peace, and that was enough. 15 years after the treaty, a new threat emerged. The Korvax swarm, a species of hive-minded insectoids, began expanding aggressively into both human and Kalrith space. They did not negotiate. They did not accept diplomacy. They simply consumed everything in their path. The Kalrith Empire mobilized its fleets. Humanity mobilized the Frontier Security Force, but separately neither seemed capable of stopping the swarm. Then someone in Earth's government had an idea. The joint operation was unprecedented. Kalrith ships providing advanced weapons and defensive technology. Human fighters providing unpredictable tactics and fearless aggression, working together, coordinating for the first time. The Battle of Korvax Prime lasted 3 weeks. It was brutal. Both sides took heavy casualties, but in the end, the combined force destroyed the swarm's central hive and broke their invasion. Vriss, brought out of retirement to advise on the operation, stood on the command deck of a Calrath flagship and watched the final battle. Next to him stood Marcus Fenrir, now officially a consultant with the Frontier Security Force. "You know what is funny?" Fenrir said as they watched explosions light up the darkness. "We spent a year trying to kill each other. Now we are fighting side by side. War makes strange allies," Vriss said. "I guess." Fenrir grinned. "But damn, it feels good to be fighting again. I missed this." "You never change, do you?" "Nope. Still a monster. But now I am your monster, too." Vriss could not help but smile. "I suppose that is progress." The Korvax swarm was defeated. The joint operation was declared a success. New treaties were signed formalizing military cooperation between Earth and the Empire. Historians would later mark this as the real end of the human Calrath War. Not the treaty that ended the fighting, but the battle where former enemies became allies. On New Haven, the frontier colony where many Frontier Force veterans had settled, a monument was erected. It listed the names of all who had died in the war. Human and Calrath both. At the bottom, someone had carved a message. Nobody knew who put it there, and no government ever officially acknowledged it. But everyone who saw it understood. Asterisk, they wanted war, but not this one. We gave them chaos, and chaos won. May we never need to do it again, asterisk. Vriss visited the monument once near the end of his life. He read the message and thought about all he had seen, all he had learned. The galaxy was bigger than he had imagined, more dangerous, more complicated. And humanity, this young species that had barely learned to reach the stars, had taught the Empire a lesson 4,000 years of conquest had not, that civilization was fragile. That rules only worked when everyone followed them. That sometimes to preserve civilization, you had to be willing to set it aside. It was a terrible lesson, but a necessary one. As Vriss turned to leave, he saw a figure standing nearby. Marcus Fenrir, older now, but still carrying himself like a predator. They had not arranged to meet, but neither was surprised to see the other. "You come here often?" Fenrir asked. "First time," Vriss said. "You?" "Every year. Anniversary of the treaty. I figure somebody should remember." "Remember what?" "The victory." Fenrir shook his head. "Not the victory. The cost. The things we became to get it. Someone has to remember so we don't forget why we put the monsters back in the cage." Vriss nodded. "Yes. Someone should remember." They stood together for a long time, an old alien commander and an old human monster, watching the sun set over a world built by exiles. They didn't speak again. There was nothing left to say. They had survived. Their worlds had survived. And in a galaxy full of threats, perhaps that was the only victory that mattered.